Man, a lot of people say this is the biggest problem they have in their firm, getting information.
For sure, and the flow-on effects is huge inefficiencies. If you don't charge your clients more, you cop that. When I started my accounting firm, I dreamed of more impact, but instead found myself buried in 60-hour weeks, chasing deadlines, and stuck as the bottleneck. Over the years, I've learned how to take back control of my time, my team, and my profit, and I built systems that help grow Inspire into a multi-million-dollar firm without sacrificing family or freedom. This podcast, High Performance Accountants, is where I share what worked and talk with other firm owners and experts who are doing the same. I'm Ben Walker, and if you'd like more tools, videos, and insights, join our free community at highperformance.accountants/Facebook. Now let's dive in. Well, firstly, James, thanks for catching up today. I've been really looking forward to a bit of a chat around this. It's been on my mind for a while.
It comes up quite a bit. Yeah, thanks for having me and for the opportunity to talk through this, because it is definitely something we get asked a lot. Yeah, it'd be good to clear it up.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I guess the context for the audience is I've known James for probably close to a decade now, I'd say, even if not a little bit more.
Almost definitely more, yeah.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, and I've seen James, found and start Content Snare, which in the Australian accounting community is definitely getting huge traction, especially over from my observations, the last 12 to 24 months. In the back of my mind, though, like again, I've hung out with James a fair bit and seen his growth, but my assumption for our own firm using ContentSnare is that, hey, we've got a feature that's already in Karbon, so we're Karbon subscribers, that does client requests. And so I asked James, like, hey, let's catch up. Let's talk about why a Karbon user would want to sign up for ContentSnare as well. And I did ask him before we started today, are there actually Karbon subscribers who subscribe to you as well? And he did say affirmative. That is correct. So I'd love to dive deep into that. But I guess before we get stuck into the almost like the comparisons or the reasons why you might consider both, maybe just give us a bit of an overview of what does ContentSnare look like over the last little while.
Yeah, well, I mean, the quickest version of what it is it's the fastest or the easiest way to collect information from clients. So that could be queries or documents, end of year type stuff, or client onboarding is a big use case. It's funny, I just swapped the order of that. It's the first time I've said that in the other order, because normally we say client onboarding first, and it puts people into this pigeonhole that like content snares for client onboarding. We've noticed that, and so but really the biggest value from the product is using it every time you need information from clients now. And obviously, there's a bit of overlap with Karbon, and we can get into that. But the short version of what it's looked like recently. We started for web designers, hence the name Content Snare. It was for getting website content from clients. That was a problem we had in our design agency. Around 2021, we found lots of accountants signing up for the product, and we were like, what are you guys doing with this? Yeah. It wasn't just accountants. It was like mortgage brokers, financial planners, real estate, education. Like, it was crazy. The amount of different... We spoke to someone who does like tree transplants. Like, they get up these big equipment and dig trees out of the ground and move them, and they wanted to use Content Snare. It's just like asking questions before they do the job, essentially. Yeah, but then we just got crazy feedback from accountants. That's why we doubled down hard. What it looks like in the last couple of years. It's funny you say you noticed it in the last 12 to 24 months. I guess I'm too close to it. I do see the growth, but there's a report on accounting tech coming out soon that's not public. It might be by the time this goes live, but in the client onboarding or was it engagement category, we were the fastest growing app there, because they have access to a lot of apps that accounting firms are using. And apparently we were the highest growth percentage wise in the category. So very happy to hear that. Yeah. Just trying to build a product that saves people time, man. A lot of people say this is the biggest problem they have in their firm, getting information.
For sure. And the flow on effects is huge inefficiencies. If you don't charge your clients more, you cop that. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. And so it sounds like accountants are the primary focus now. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely the focus. Funnily enough, not like they're the majority, not even fully the majority. It's pretty close to 50% of our customers are accountants. But I think that's just because of our old brand that's still left in that agency space, and people Googling what we do and finding us. It's kind of weird that like I spent all my time on accounting, but only 50% of our customers are accountants.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, safe. I sort of feel like it's safe that if an accounting firm was considering signing up, you've got tons of product development and focus on that niche that I just feel like it's going to get better from here. Awesome. And I guess maybe just switching gears now. So I said earlier, I'm a Karbon user. Karbon has client requests is the language they use for getting stuff off clients. And it, like, I can actually, maybe I'll do that now. I'll sort of fire up me good old screen share, and here we go. All right, so here's a very simple couple of tasks that I've got here. I mean, this is for, I guess, people who don't use Karbon. Maybe you want to sort of see how the client request feature works. But we've got this button here that says, or this task, which you can build into workflows, that says client request. And what'll happen is you can actually build a list of stuff. Did you buy a car last year? You can keep going down and adding all your questions. You can even, attach descriptions, images if you want to, bits and pieces. And what the client sees on the other end, forgive me for not demoing this bit, but you hit this button, you send it to client. The idea is that you build your checklist that you want to get from your client in Karbon, and then on their end, they come in and tick it off, or they can put comments in, upload a couple of PDFs and so on. And then you can even build in automators to say that once they've done all their list, it triggers the next thing that you've got in your workflow, which for us is usually a review of what they've sent in, to verify that they've actually sent the right bank statement, or they've answered the questions that we need. And then, that's essentially how we use client requests inside Karbon. Now, this is like our year-end process, for instance. We might have 2 or 3 sections of client requests for the first round of queries, or the first round of questions, and maybe even the second if we need them. So, and it's all built in. It's all stages in our workflow in Karbon. And I guess from my perspective, I feel like, and I don't think I can use this excuse forever. And it's interesting because other Karbon users have signed up for ContentSnare, but I love everything being in one place. There's a bit of efficiency with that, but let's see what ContentSnare looks like.
Yeah, cool.
And maybe if you're keen to demo what the client.
Yeah, I've still got it open. So let's have a look. I'll zoom in a bit. So I've deleted the name of their company here. I just wrote example company. Their logo was here before. I just deleted it. But this is an example, and this is pretty typical with our bookkeepers. They'll send us one question asking for bank statements, right? Every quarter or whatever. So if I open this up, that's what it looks like, right? And I've attached some things. And
you can have chats, you can upload PDFs, go back and forth.
Yeah, and look, I think this is the difference here is like, this is not very structured, right? If you've asked a question, the way to answer it is like write a comment, and that can be anything, like it could be like, it's very free form, like, and now sort of the actual details are buried within a comment thread rather than like, this is actually a really good example of why I think people would use ContentSnare over just this. Like, I think this kind of works for small amounts of information. Like if you're only asking for like a couple of statements or whatever, that's where I think this actually works fine. Like, I would say there's a couple of user interface UX issues with it, like I can't even drag and drop files and stuff like that. But it's simple enough, right? But you can see a really good. This is actually the example I was going to bring up. I didn't think I'd actually do it live like this with the screen share, but you can see they've asked for a bunch of statements, and I have said, because there's issues for some weird reason, we don't get one of these statements until like the 16th of the month, and the other one is like the 8th. It's the credit cards with Combank. And so they ask us to send them, and I'm like, hey, credit cards are late. So I've wrote this comment. So again, like the comments are now buried within the actual information, right? So I've uploaded all the statements, and look at the names they come down with from the bank. They're all, and I'm like, I can't be bothered renaming those, right? I don't have time for that shit. So I have just dumped all those there. And then we were talking over email separately, and I was like, yeah, no, I haven't done them all yet. And they're like, are you talking about like the credit card statement? And they sent someone from the team in to look at this and look at all of those individually, and then go, oh, okay, cross-referencing which file with which item. And they're like, oh, it's the credit card for Mark that we don't have. And I'm like, I already knew that. I know I haven't set that yet. Right. So they've just spent all this time trying to cross-reference which one of these randomly named files applied to which thing in here. Right. And I guess you could do that as individual tasks.
Yes.
In here. However, personally, like, I don't know. There's something about like going into each task and then like hitting the upload and then selecting the right one and then burying it into comments. It's just an efficiency thing, right? And I feel like I'm just crapping on the Karbon system here. What like I don't want to do that, right? Because like this system works for people. The difference is it's like this is all we do, and we do this really, really well. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. But it's like the same kind of principle. If you like, Zero's got reporting built in, Zero's got invoice capture built in. They like, but you still go to third-party reporting tools for a better version of that, right?
Yes.
Or like Carbon's not trying to do everything Zero's doing. They're a practice manager on top of Zero, right? Just like we're client requests, but we plug into other practice management systems. And like, yeah, we're seriously considering an integration with Karbon. It just hasn't happened yet. Anyway, so now if we look at this same thing on ContentSnare, now this is going to be fun. I'm going to try and do this exact request list live in ContentSnare. So each one of these is a request we've got out with a client. And that can be for one thing, it can be for 500 things. Like people who use this for client onboarding, there could be like, 50 questions that you're asking a client. So I create a new request. Oops, I'm doing a smart request here, an AI one. So I'm going to give this a go live and go, let's say bank statements.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going to go, we need statements for these accounts. One field per question or something. I don't know. I don't even see how this goes. AI is not perfect, right? Because normally that's a recurring request. So once you created this, you'd lay out these questions properly and then just set that to recur every 3 months or whatever. The AI one is really just to shortcut the process of like, if you don't want to have to create the thing manually, right? Okay. So this is created. I'll just rename this bit. Yeah. So we've got, it actually hasn't done that good of a job here. It didn't set them up as files properly. It's just AI being AI, right? But if we change all these to files now, we've got a bunch of file questions. It's saying, please provide the statement for this account, then this one, then this one, then this one, right? This is a very simple request. So this is kind of the key difference here is like, I would generally set this up as one file per question in this scenario because it becomes a simple checklist. You can see exactly what's done, exactly what's still outstanding. Whereas in the Karbon, like I know you can kind of do that with Karbon with the, like if you split this up into 10 questions or something, you could do that. But then you've got, I'll show you what this looks like from the client's end if I send this to myself now. Now, it's also worth just keeping in mind that these like basic queries are just one use case for ContentSnare. Like if this is all you were doing, you might just do this with Karbon. But we set a reminder schedule. So we're saying like, I want to remind this person after 3 days, 5 days, 10 days, whatever. I'm just going to turn those off. We could schedule this to go out in the future. There's a bunch of access stuff there, but I'll just skip over this.
And maybe right now, without an integration with Karbon, it might be a bit trickier or a little bit custom, but can we trigger questionnaires to go out with? Yeah, great.
Yeah, you like Zapier and Make.com, Karbon's got integration there. So you could absolutely say, yeah, if work hits a certain spot, then do that, like send a request in ContentSnare. That is what I want the integration to look like in Karbon when we build it. It's like you have a work item and it's just like, you press a button on that and essentially sends the request off automatically in ContentSnare. And then hopefully we can actually pull all the data back from the finished request into that task as well. So you can see here, we've got a really simple checklist. This all looks the same because it's stupid AI, like probably not the best example, but if it said like account ending in this, like if I had more time to set it up, that's what I would have done.
I mean, it's pretty impressive to copy and paste what you did. And
I probably threw it off with that first line of the prompt and should have just like pasted in the list of queries directly. Like anyway, but you can see now we've just got one file they can upload to specifically this question. And if we wanted, we could even set this up to rename this file for this account number, right? So then you don't have those stupid file names. So I guess I'll just upload something to this one. But then it becomes this checklist down the side, right? They can see really clearly which ones they've done.
Yes. You can have multiple files.
Yeah. And any discussions we have would be, so this one's a single file upload, but you can enable multi-file uploads. Okay. In this case, I'm just saying I want one file per question. And they can, I could have said, this is that credit card. This doesn't come out till the 16th or whatever. And I could have left that comment sort of in parallel. It's not on the side. It's not all mixed in with the actual data and answers to questions. Now, if I just jump back out, because that was a really kind of random example. if I create a new request for, I'm just going to do client onboarding because it's got like such a big mix of questions that shows the power of Content Snare a bit more. So we've got lots of different types of questions where it could be like, answer this information. Like this is just a name and address or whatever. We can do proof of identity for client onboarding. So we've actually got a proper identity verification fields, right? And this is where I'm talking about like things when you have a dedicated tool, it becomes a bit more like flexible and powerful. We've got conditional questions, right? So we can see, I don't know, I've got to find an example of that. My camera is in the way. Here. So we've got, are you GST registered? And we don't want to ask this follow-up question if they are not GST registered, right? So we have a condition here that says show that question if they said yes to the one above, right? And you can get really granular with this, and people will create these like full self-selecting workflows for clients. Like at the end of the year, did you have a rental this year? Like, did you buy or sell a rental property? Did you buy or sell shares? Whatever. And then asking the relevant questions only based on what they've input, right? Otherwise, you're asking this like huge question list that could be overwhelming for clients, but half of it's not even relevant to them. They only see the relevant stuff. So that's kind of important. But if I show you what this looks like now, if I send that to myself as well, this one's a bit more, like probably a better example, I would say, of like where ContentSnare shines. Just imagine they got it. I'm skipping over the email part of this and just jumping straight into the client view. But yeah, like, you know, we've got a grouped question list here. Like we've got 8 questions on this page and they can enter things in and it's all saved on the fly. You know, they don't have to take any action. That is just saved. They can come back on another device another time and that text is still there. When they're done with it, they can click that button, right? So that's what ContentSnare looks like. You can see they're marking things off there when they're done. Yeah, but then you've got, and another thing I didn't think it was question types. So, you know, you can see I've got ones that I can type into, ones that I can upload to. You can put tables in there, like mini spreadsheets. People will copy the uncoded transaction report from Xero into one of our tables and allow people to answer those queries within the table.
If you've ever finished a big job, sent the invoice, and then waited and waited for payment, you know that sinking feeling. The team's done the work, but the cash isn't there. You're following up emails, watching Xero like a hawk, and second guessing if you even charged enough. I've been there, and that's exactly why I built Get Paid Properly. It's an 8-week program that helps accounting firm owners stop chasing invoices, fix their pricing, and get paid before the work starts. You'll learn the same systems we use at Inspire. We don't start a job until the money's in the bank and the debtors sit under $2K on a $4 million plus firm. Stop guessing your prices, stop chasing payments, and start getting paid properly. Join us at highperformance.accountants/get paid. Well, I guess one of my biggest question is like, what is the features that you've got that Karbon Client Request doesn't? And it sounds like there's heaps.
Yeah, I mean, this is all we do, right? It's all focused on this one thing. And I would say just the client experience. I feel like that is where we spend all our time, and creating that like super premium client experience has a lot of value in it too. I think the favorite messages, we get a lot of testimonials, right? Being like, this has been really good for our firm, blah, blah, blah. But the favorite ones I hear are like a person from like an end client. So there was an account manager at Xero whose accountant does their personal tax, and they use ContentSnare. And he came up to me at XeroCon. He was like, "Oh my god, they sent me a request in ContentSnare, and I get it now." You know, like it's so. I have friends who are clients of accountants that tell me they've seen ContentSnare as the client and gone, "Man, I wish they used this kind of thing sooner." That's my favorite feedback because it's like it's this premium experience for clients, right? It's and make like everything we do is to try and make it just stupidly easy. Like, you know, the fact that you can drag and drop files, you know, it seems so simple and whatever, but like you can't do that in Karbon. You know, this is one feature of like a million that Karbon have. So of course it's not going to get the same attention.
Yeah.
But back on the types of questions you can ask, like, yeah, there's quite a lot there, right? You can put a table in, ABN lookups for onboarding, file uploads, select the country, if, you know, single choice checkboxes. There's just lots and lots of stuff there. But if I show you just quickly tables, yeah, you can like add more columns and you can paste directly into this as well. So yeah, you can get them to add a list of directors and shareholders or whatever, all in embedded tables. Yeah, so obviously I've just, I don't know, vomited there a lot of information, but hopefully you can kind of see that it's more than just those simple queries, right? You send 1 or 2 queries, and I think it kind of makes sense in Karbon. I wouldn't say that's a bad use case. It's just if there's lots more or structured information or like more than a couple of questions, I'd say ContentSnare sort of provides that more premium and just simpler experience for clients.
Yeah, cool. And do you have firms using ContentSnare to get like BASs or tax returns or financials signed, like essentially a replacement for DocuSign or Anature or?
No, so we're actually planning signing integrations with Anature and Fuse to start with. We have a basic signature field, but it's not really for signing documents. It's just like a pad to draw on. Some people want their clients to do that as part of the form,
Yes.
like a questionnaire. As proper document signing, no. We will do that by integration to start with anyway. Yeah, so that's coming.
Yeah, cool.
So you can imagine like a process, like an onboarding process in ContentSnare, where it's like answer these questions, upload these files, sign this document, make a payment because we're planning on doing that as well, verify your ID, all within sort of one checklist.
Yeah, great. That's pretty impressive. Awesome. And then one of the issues we get with technology is friction with clients. Particularly with zero sign, you got to log in every time. Clients have to set up a login. It's just a pain. With client requests, I think there's multiple different methods you can choose, and obviously the least friction probably has the less security. But how does ContentSnare approach friction and maybe the ease of use? It already looks better in user interface, but how?
Well, I mean, ease of use is a whole other thing, and I guess like I think that is what our differentiator in the market is just, and this is just the constant feedback we get is how easy it is to use compared to X, compared to Y, whatever. But that's because we spend so much time on it, right? Like it is our product. The other stuff just supports that. Without a nice client experience, we don't exist. Well, maybe we would exist because there are plenty of client portals out there that seem to get a lot of customers that are just absolutely rubbish, and no one wants to use them. And so many client portals get like implemented and never used by clients, and then they just end up paying for this expensive thing that's getting dusty on the shelf. But as far as access, yeah, so similar. Like we have multiple options you can access with just a link. Now, a lot of people feel like linking just a link is not very secure. It's actually more secure than most people realize. It's called an unguessable link, which means a really, really long link that no one's just going to randomly show up at and guess, right? It's like decades of computing power to be able to just randomly generate. So just for comparison, the YouTube URL, it's like 11 characters long.
Yes.
Something like a decade of computing power to guess that. I think we're 2.5 times that length, and it's exponential based on like how hard it is to guess. Like an API key to get access to something is often just a long string of characters. So in itself, it's quite secure. The issue is if like they send that link to someone they shouldn't have, like forwarded it on or whatever, like that's where, or someone gets access, someone cracks into their email address when that link is still active, but that link is only active for a small amount of time. So it's not like, something you sent them 5 years ago.
Yes.
If a hacker gets into their email, finds that they're in. To be honest, I think that's the least of your problems anyway. If someone gets into your email, you're screwed anyway.
Yeah.
So keep that shit really secure. But yeah, you can put a PIN code on top as well if you want, but you can also get them to create a username and password, so we actually have a client portal section now. It's kind of new where you can send documents to clients as like a repository of all their information. We currently require a login for that because that's a permanent store of sensitive data. But we are looking into alternative ways there. Like so Magic Link is the way we're looking to now, which is, again, it's just access via a link, but it's a short-lived link, like literally like half an hour. Like I want to get into my portal, send me the URL, I get in through that method. So it's a two-step thing, so it's a little bit more annoying, but it's easy for clients that don't have to remember a password, whatever. But it's also like very highly secure. Like so many services work like this now, right? Like Slack. You get into Slack through Magic Links. Like that's just the way it works now.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, and client portals, that's an interesting one because even Carbon's got, I think, 2 different versions. It was released relatively recently and just looks a little bit, I don't know. So do you have something that you can show us with how the
set up on this demo account? I'll just show you quickly. I mean, it is a pretty early version of this for us too, right? So
the amount of times that we get clients say, "Oh, can you send me last year's tax returns for the finance?" or all that.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're on your client list, if I just find myself, I don't know if I've actually set myself up with any. You go to client portal and you can just, there's a document that I've sent before. We actually modeled this on the zero sign one because I was on the receiving end of that as a client.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that it was like these, let's say you get like your tax return or whatever as like a group of files, and then you have the 4 within that, and it just sort of chronologically pushed down. And that's essentially what we're doing right now. Like this is just a file I've uploaded before.
Yeah.
And This is kind of similar to what the client would see. I'm looking at the accountant's view here. But yeah, they would come into Content Snare. They'd be able to see their client portal. It's just as simple as this, right? Like there's a group
Yep.
followed by a list of files, which, sorry.
2025 tax returns for the family group, and then you can have all the 7 or 8 PDFs.
And you can preview, download, or delete. Oh, I don't think they have the option to delete, but yeah, and you can just imagine like packs of files here. Long term, we want to massively expand this into like meeting notes and links and resources and invoices and whatever, and be able to push files in like auto syncing to your document management. Like, we have a lot of customers who use FYI, Suite files or SharePoint or OneDrive or whatever, and just being able to go like pull in that directory and give the client secure access to those. This is all the stuff that's on our roadmap. This is pretty new at this right now.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Very good. And then just jumping back to, you mentioned syncing and files and that sort of thing. So, I would, like, if I'm a Karbon user and I've got ContentSnare and the client's given me the answers to uploaded about 20 PDFs, what's the most efficient way I can get that into either my Karbon or my SharePoint client originals folder?
Okay, yeah, so we've got a direct integration to SharePoint, and so you just export the request. The export button in ContentSnare can do two things. It'll either download a zip where it's got a PDF of all their answers, so anything that's not a file they've uploaded, and you want like a record of that, it's just like, all the things they typed in comes down as a PDF, and all the files they uploaded come in as separate files. So you get that like block, and you can either download that locally and then stick it where it's got to go, or push it directly into SharePoint. OneDrive, SharePoint, Google Drive, and Dropbox and FYI are our direct integrations. Otherwise, you would do this with Zapier or Make.com. You would say when a request is complete, and push the information to where it's got to go.
Yeah, great. And can you map the client in ContentSnare to a client's originals folder? That easy?
So in Make.com or Zapier, yes, because those products have the ability to write anywhere within your Google Drive. We don't have access to do that yet. We need to sort of escalate. Now that we've been running for a while, we should be able to get that like permission where we can write anywhere within someone's folder. But right now it'll create a folder called like ContentSnare or something. It could be like client received. And then within that, we create a folder called the client's company name, entity name, and then the files can go within there.
Yeah.
Some people will do that and then automatically, like they'll use Power Automate or whatever to suck those files into the right directories. Yeah, there is like, because the originals folder or whatever like can be very different for different people, and I'm a little bit wary of even when we do have this ability to write anywhere, because if someone messes up their folder structure or it's not perfect, then we're just going to write to where it's told to write, and that could be bad for them. If that makes sense.
And I think the interesting thing is that every accounting firm does everything so differently, and that
it's incredible.
Out of you, but I can see how that could just be a giant mess. But yeah, okay.
It's much easier in FYI because when you select the client to send to, so you pick like Joe Blogs, I'm sending this request to him. At that moment, we can link the clients to FYI, and so there's no actual concept of like a client folder in FYI. You're just putting the file under the client. And then there's a fixed set of folders under every client, right? So there's like we just attach it to the folder called originals and to that client. It's handled on the FYI end.
Yeah, great. Okay. Very good. Let's,
Hopefully we can do something like that with Karbon one day. Like I don't know what their API looks like, but that is the kind of thing I want to be able to do is go like, select a Karbon client on that final step when you send the request, select a Karbon client, and then be able to push the information back directly under that client.
Yeah, cool. I've heard, and again, not this use case that we're talking about, but I've heard their API is very generous in its abilities. But and who knows on the document front, but that'd be amazing. Well, yeah, I guess overall you've definitely moved the needle for me on. Like it's a serious consideration. There's upside, there's benefits to the client from user interface. I can't argue against that at all. There's the AI queries, like dumping a list of stuff, and it goes and pre-fills that. Yeah. We saw there 8 to 10 separate requests.
That like I said, that was a pretty rubbish example. The way I would normally use that is if like, and this is the intended use case, is like you were going to send an email to a client.
Yeah.
There's no excuse now to like, because some people will be like, oh, it's easier to send an email. No, it's like copy that, dump that straight in, because that would normally be worded in a way that's like, we need this, we need that, like please like, send us this file, whatever, and then the AI is better at it. Like that one was just like statement number, like it was like that's why the AI kind of struggled. It had no context.
Yep. But there's so many times, even, it might not even be a list like that, but it might be like one or two things, or let us know when you're ready for XYZ, and they can just hit a button to let us know. So yeah, I can see that can be
Yeah.
helpful on many.
I feel like there's a bright future with this in work papers as well. So I know at least one work paper product has almost finished their integration with ContentSnare, and another one's really keen, where they can basically, as you're going through the work paper, you build up the questions that you want to ask the client, and then stick all that in a request, and then when it comes back, attach it to the right spot.
Beautiful. Okay. Awesome. And then actually earlier we were talking about file names. Does ContentSnare have a feature where it changes the file name to something?
Yeah, so it can do it to the name of the question right now, but the feature we're working on right now, I don't know how far through it we are, but is the ability to have like a custom name. So you could go like, I want to rename this file, statement dash something dash date it's uploaded or whatever, like you could actually create your own file names for every individual question or file that's uploaded to ContentSnare, and then we can rename that.
Yeah. Statement and then a bunch of numbers doesn't mean much to many people, but yeah.
No.
All right. Is there any other, like you've talked about a few things under development right now, but is there any other big ones where you sort of see opportunity or really cool features that you got planned roadmap wise?
I would say most of what we got right now, it's a lot of, we're sort of focused on making what we've got a lot better. We have a few things on the user experience side. We're constantly tweaking that because we have like ideas and ways to make that simpler for clients. And I think that's why we get good feedback on that. Recently, we've built to be able to push new clients into XPM.
Okay.
So you can create clients in XPM, and we want to expand that. We built that in a kind of modular way, so that hopefully we can add new integrations really quickly. Like, when a client finishes a request, create them in Karbon, create them in HubSpot, whatever, so that's kind of the intention there. Yeah, big stuff. That signing is probably the main big one that we want to build next, in payments. That's what I'd call like new features. Otherwise, we're really hardcore focused on currently improving right now, which I think a lot of apps kind of don't do. They build new things, committing to rolling out all these new big things, all this fancy shiny stuff. But we actually intentionally just recently, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, just went like, let's rein this in and like address a few like things that we can improve rather than like a big shiny feature.
Yeah, nice. Yep. Awesome. And yeah, I can definitely see, especially the older SaaS solutions in accounting, they sort of get something delivered and then yeah, you're right, they're just on to the next. And even some of those extra things take a long time to see, but yeah.
It's just the way it is, man. Like, I'm constantly frustrated with development speed. Like, sometimes we'll build something and I'm like, oh, you guys did that so fast. And then something else you think's going to be fast takes like 6 months.
Yeah,
It's
wow.
just the way software is.
Yep. Yeah. No, there you go. And then, all right. So, say I'm a Karbon user. I've watched this. I'm convinced that I need to try it. How do we go about? Can we trial it and see how it goes? And what would you suggest? Because sometimes I think we trial something, we put our email and sign up for an account, and then we don't actually really do anything with it. So, what would you say the best way to really experience there is before we like dive in and
yeah, cool. So yeah, 14-day free trial. And there's a form that comes up. Tell us where you heard about us. So this podcast, obviously. And then it'll extend your thing for another 7 days. But yeah, so first thing I would say, create a dummy request, send it to yourself so you can see the client experience, like your personal email. And then you'll see what the entire thing looks like. Play around with like answering questions, uploading stuff. Just use one of our templates, like an onboarding form or a generic client intake form for like another industry. Like we've got so many templates there. Just pick one, send it, and play around with it from the client's perspective. Then next step is usually a teammate. So like create the request you're going to send to a client, send it to a teammate, see what they think. One thing I didn't cover much is every question has like a full multimedia editor that you can send like information, links, screenshots, videos, GIFs, like whatever. So every question you can have information to like walk through a client through a process. So client agent linking is a good example here. It's like you need the client to go to here, fill this information out. You give them that instructions and then say like, have you done this tick, or like this is when you upload a statement, we need it to be visible in the corner. We need the account number and the name of the business or whatever. It's got to be a PDF. Don't send us a CSV, blah, blah, blah. You put all that in the box. So that kind of stuff is what makes things much easier to use, right? So that's the stuff you're normally looking for feedback on. So when you send this to a teammate, they might give you some feedback. Then you pick like a couple of clients, like your star clients that you think are going to be like pretty keen on this kind of thing. And you send them the request and be like, hey, just let us know if this is clear, what you've got to do. Did you get stuck anywhere? Whatever, just let us know. Put in a comment or whatever in Content Snare if you don't understand something. And that generally would prompt you to expand on your instructions for that question. Yes. So they know what they've got to do right the first time. So yeah, like that's kind of the process. Test on yourself, test it on a coworker, test it on a couple of key clients, and then roll it out from there.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And cool. And then in terms of pricing model, is that a per seat?
So the value of our product's really in the number of requests you've got out. So it's per request. It's currently an active request model. So like how many you've got in progress at once, which has natural sort of inclusion for, if it's a small request, it's not going to be open for very long. If it's a big request, it will be. So yeah. I think it's like, I think a 50 request plan, 50 active requests is $70 something US in the process of changing billing systems. So we can do Aussie dollars, but also going to slightly change the model to be sort of number of clients based, just so it's a bit easier for people to understand how many clients you're working with at a time. Yeah. So it's generally like a very cheap product compared to everything else people are paying, right? Like a typical firm would be paying like a solar. It's probably like one seat on Karbon for this entire product. Yeah. Which is, good and bad for us.
Yeah. Like and that's the thing. The per seat subscriptions, they're the ones that take a really heavy consideration. But no, that sounds very fair and reasonable. So awesome. All right. Well, maybe just one last question. If you were to pick one feature that ContentSnare nails over something that Karbon doesn't have or does poorly, what would that like? What would the conversion across be?
Yeah, look, I don't know if you count this as a feature, but it's just client experience, right?
Yeah.
I've said this a bunch of times already, but that is our magic. It's the secret sauce. It's the everything. Is like, we actually want to create a nice experience for your clients. And there's a lot of small things that go into that, but you don't really realize. Like sometimes you just use an app and it's like, oh, this is nice, right? You can't explain why if you're not a designer or you're not in the tech space most of the time, but sometimes it's just nice to use. And that's kind of what we're going for. It's a premium experience, especially if that's the first touch point with a client. It's like, and they know they've got it. That's the place they go all the time to answer questions, whatever. It's just, a nice experience, easy to use, fast.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. That's absolutely the most important thing at the end of the day. Brilliant. All right. Well, James, I really appreciate your time today. Thanks for even the demos that you popped through. And I think that was a really balanced view of, quite a convincing one of why someone would use ContentSnare and Karbon. Yeah. So thanks again. And
awesome. Cheers, Ben.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to High Performance Accountants. I'm Ben Walker. If you got value from today's episode, the best next step is to join our free Facebook group at highperformance.accountants/Facebook. It's where I share more videos, templates, and answer your questions personally. You can also grab my free tools bundle or take the High Performance Scorecard to see where your firm stands at our website. All the links are in the show notes below. See you next week.